Wars without sword and great
Wars
musical
without
chord.
sword
I
and
am,
great
as
musical
always, your
chord.
host,
I
Christopher
am,
Paul
as
Dugdale,
always, your host,
MEDMA. We
Christopher
are
Paul
Duncanville High
Dugdale,
School News,
MEDMA.
United States,
We are
and
Duncanville High
today
School News,
is
United
November
States,
19th,
and today is
2020.
November
And on
19th,
this date,
2020.
in
And on this
1620,
date, in
the Pilgrims were right
1620,
off the coast trying to
the
find a place
Pilgrims were
to
right off
land
the coast
near
trying to find a
Massachusetts.
place
Now
to
remember, they were
land
supposed to go to
near
Virginia,
Massachusetts. Now
but they
remember, they
missed
were
it by
supposed to go to
about 800
Virginia,
miles.
but they
So
missed it by
great
about
job.
800
Shows
miles.
you don't
So
have to be
great
good
job. Shows you
to
don't have
be
to
a
be
famous explorer.
good
So
to be a famous
everyone have a
explorer.
great
So
day, and I'll see you soon.
everyone have a great day, and I'll see you soon.
So the War of Austrian Succession. Okay, we've talked about this a little bit in the past because we did talk about Maria Theresa, and we talked a little bit about Frederick the Second. But what happens is Prussia attacks and takes Silesia from Austria. My God, I almost said Australia. Ugh. Well, anyway, so they take Silesia away from Austria. Now, the thing about most of these regions, everyone here is German speaking, so it's not massive changes, but it was such a shot against Austria. Okay, and the pragmatic sanction was what Charles VI did to guarantee his daughter Maria Theresa to be the leader of Austria after he dies. That's everything that Charles VI was working for. Now, France and other countries are going to join Prussia in invading Austria, and Austria is actually going to get support from Great Britain. And this is a war that's fought in Europe and in India and in North America. So this really quickly becomes a global conflict. Now, there were some major French problems with the War of Austrian Succession. Okay, France was a continental empire, has a massive army, but they also need a large navy, and they really didn't have that at their disposal at that point. Okay, Austria and Prussia were at one point pretty equal in powers to each other, but when Silesia is taken by Germany, it doubles the population of people in Germany. So the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, okay, Britain's going to give up land in India, but they get Louisbourg in the Americas, and Prussia's going to get to keep Silesia. So we're still not done with everything that's going on, because this is going to lead to another war, which leads to another war, which leads to another war. So in Austria, under Maria Theresa, she tries to make a lot of reforms to try and make a better and stronger nation. Really, she is an enlightened ruler, okay? So she tries to centralize the collection of taxes. She combines administrative offices and tries to streamline all the policies. She triples the size of the army to try and prevent things like the loss of Silesia in the future. She pushes primary education and really pushes for the smallpox inoculation. And it was very controversial for her to push the smallpox inoculation, because the church really said that if you're doing this, you're showing that that you don't believe that God can heal you. And this was extremely controversial. So this is kind of one of the things that leads to the diplomatic revolution of 1756. Count von Kaunitz convinces France and Russia to side against Prussia and Great Britain. Okay, and this really kind of changes the balance of power in Europe to where it would have been overwhelming. But Britain's going to change sides also, and they're going to join Prussia because the king was from a Prussian province. Okay, the Hanovers, the King George 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all of them were German by birth, and this kind of makes them natural allies with their Prussian family members. Now, moving on. So this is going to lead to the 7 Years' War. Okay, I know that we've talked about the 7 Years' War probably in your other classes. The fact that the 7 Years' War actually starts in the Americas whenever George Washington goes to check his land in the Ohio River Valley. And the first shots are really fired there. Now, it's 2 years before war really breaks out. Washington is defeated on July 4th of 1754, and he's defending colonies, but this kind of gets us going here. And once again, I'm back to the diplomatic revolution of 1756. So why I talk about this on 2 different slides in a row, I really don't know. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with it because it's really important for you to remember this. So this breaks up the French and Prussian alliance. So the Battle of Rosbach, okay, Frederick II. So Great Britain is fighting outside of Europe, but all the fighting in Europe is done by Prussia. Okay, so Frederick II is going to fight Austria, France, and Russian armies. He's outnumbered 10-1. Okay, and he's outnumbered 10-1. This is really how he gets the moniker of the Great, just because of being able to hold off all of Europe from this. The Russian Tsarina Elizabeth, she nearly defeats Prussia, but once she dies, Peter III is going to withdraw forces because he really admired Frederick the Great. Okay, now the Peace of Hubertusburg is going to end the war in Europe, and Prussia is going to end up keeping Silesia. So, once again, Austria wanted Silesia back, but didn't really have the ability to do that. So, now in India, this is really the Great War for Empire, and France is trying to win back Madras. Okay, so they're trying to win back Madras, and Robert Clive wins the war for Britain because of a major victory at Plassey. Okay, so Britain in the Americas is going to provide financial support for Prussia fighting in the war, and they're going to win very decisive battles against the French Navy under William Pitt the Elder. And William Pitt the Elder is really going to change a lot of the strategies for how they are fighting the war in the Americas. Okay, they go with younger generals. Okay, who are able to go out. It's more inspirational to their troops having the younger generals. And furthermore, William Pitt will start to attack very important French strongholds in Quebec and Montreal. Okay, and so everything comes down to the Battle of Quebec in the Americas. Quebec was a fortress. It had such an arsenal that a frontal assault was so laughable that when the French see them, they just completely ignore the British, knowing that nothing can break through. But while the British are landing their forces in front, a small group led by James Wolfe climbs up the cliff at the rear, where there's really, there's not really all the walls that you might normally have on a castle, and they're accessible from the cliff, and they climb up and they defeat the French. James Wolfe will die in battle, but the unscalable cliff has been scaled, and anyway, so that's kind of the end of all of that. France is defeated in the New World. So we had a treaty that ended the war in Europe. Now we have the treaty that ends it in the Americas. Britain's going to take Spanish Florida away from Spain. Canada and French lands east of the Mississippi now all belong to Great Britain as well. So all of that yellow area, okay? So basically when the American Revolution breaks out, this is kind of the territory that they're fighting for. It's not just the 13 colonies. They control India, Britain does, and this is really the crown jewel of the British Empire. They get a tremendous amount of wealth from India, and eventually India will supply them with cotton so that when the U.S. Civil War breaks out, that they don't suffer because of the lack of cotton production from the South, which really, helps the North win the Civil War. Spain gets the Louisiana Territory, which they will hold until a secret treaty is signed with France in 1800. And France is going to lose really almost all of its territories around the world. Now, during this time, the most popular music was Baroque music. Okay, a lot of drama and complexity. You have some of the greatest composers in history that are producing music at this time period. This would be Johan Bach, George Handel, and this will lead right into the classical period that follows. So we'll look at all of that today in a few simple examples. So everyone, this is also really the birth of opera as well. So opera is going to come in during this time period, and it's a new type of storytelling that had not been used to date. Now, Johann Sebastian Bach, okay, he is known as the father of modern music. He had 20 children, and so, where he found time to write music, I guess is a pretty good question. He's most known for St. Matthew's Passion. Sorry, just a few more seconds and then I'll move. Okay, so that's Sebastian Bach. George Frideric Handel, another Baroque master. He writes the Messiah and fireworks music. So I'm going to play you a quick little play of this as well. So most of you are probably familiar with this as well. This is Handel, George Handel. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with this piece of music. May not sound it, but it was very revolutionary for the time period. Now for just a second, let's listen to Handel's fireworks music. You'll notice a lot of his music is large orchestras, and then choirs. So sorry that I just stumbled over my own words there for no apparent reason. So I'll go ahead and keep going here. This is going to lead directly into the classical period. Now this is really towards the end of the Enlightenment period, and the attempts of France to stabilize their government following Napoleon. Again, you'll notice that a lot of these great composers are all German. So it brings the symphony and concerto and sonata. The classical period does. So you have the works of Haydn and Mozart and Beethoven. Okay, a sonata is music written for just a solo instrument. Okay, a concerto is music written with 3 movements: fast, slow, and then fast. Then you also have a symphony or extended composition for orchestra with 3-4 movements, each with a little bit different of a tempo. So we'll go and we'll look at some works by Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven here. So Haydn really started before anyone else in this time period, 1732 to 1809, born the same year as George Washington. Okay, he really known as the father of the symphony. So just a minute, and I'm going to play real quick the Creation and probably a clip from the Seasons also. Some really strong, powerful music. Also, we're going to listen to a little bit of the Seasons, which starts pretty powerful as well. One of the things you really have to realize about all these different types of music, and it's a much different world that they lived in than we do today, but is the fact that no one had heard anything like this ever before. It's not like today where you can just pick up your phone and play any music that you want to. This is something where you might never have heard music before in your life, and then you hear something like this. Most of the people in the country didn't have access to musical instruments, and it wasn't like you would hear the same song over and over again. You might not ever hear music in your life. So it's just kind of a much different world than the one we're in today. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, he was a child prodigy. He only lived, he died before his 34th birthday. And it was just phenomenal what he was able to do in the short period of time that he had. So I'm going to give you just a few seconds of him as well. I don't know. I'm not really good at describing the different types of music here, but you just hear the power and just it's just a change in music, and from what existed before, and it's very stirring, and there's a lot of changes, and even though some of the notes are the same from place to place, it just really builds on each other. Just wait till we get to some of the strange music later on. And then, last but not least, you have Beethoven, and the Ninth Symphony is pretty infamous, so give me just a second and I will play some of this for you as well. The father of the Romantic style, he went deaf in his 30s and actually took the legs off the piano so he could play it on the ground and feel the vibrations as he played them. So this brings us to the end of the unit. Okay, I have a test that's available for you, so if you don't mind jumping on and getting that done, it'll be open until we get back from Thanksgiving. So in the meantime, be safe, don't get COVID, and I'll see all of you on the other side. This is Christopher Paul Dugdale, MEDMA, and I will see you very soon. Have a great day, everybody.